Hello, dear friends. This is just a quick and short update about this so-called pandemic. And just I want to start with saying that perfect love casts out all fear. So don't be afraid. Just stay on the rock, do good, and believe in love. Uh, we have a really good interview that I received from a couple of friends from Radio Kebono. And it says, as it says, stunning insights into the corona panic by Dr. Wolfgang Wodarg. So first I'm going to do a quick update. Then I'm going to leave you a link to this video so you can have a listen to this man. It's going to be obvious to you that this man knows what he's talking about. And yeah, it's very, very interesting and relevant to what's happening right now. But before we start, let's just do like a quick recap. We have our governments telling us there is this pandemic. So govern from Latin means govern in English. It means to manage. And ment in Latin means the mind. So those that are managing our minds are telling us that there is a pandemic. Also, we have independent media. They're also telling us that there's a pandemic. And if we look at what is independent media, it refers to any form of media, radio, television, newspapers that is free of influence from governments, those who are managing our minds, or corporate interest. Now, we know anybody who's been looking into this knows that those who are managing our minds are integrated with corporate interest. It's basically one and the same entity. And they try to give us this image that we have independent media. We have these hundreds of companies that are like investigating journalists, kind of looking into corruption and stuff like that. But that's a big fraud. Basically, there is no independent media. We have one and the same entity talking to us. What they call independent media, corporate interest, and government is one entity. It's like in Soviet Union, you have one entity that is communicating to you, and that's the situation that we are in. People have such a big time grasping this, but unfortunately, that's the situation that we are in. So we have this one entity, the ones that are managing our minds are telling us there's a pandemic. And of course, they infiltrated the World Health Organization. That's been done many years ago. And if we look, what is a pandemic? Because World Health Organization defines the word pandemic. And if we look at this site, I'm going to leave you the link. They don't have a definition for the word pandemic. So this one entity that is governing our mind, the governments, are telling us that we have a pandemic, and that word is not defined. Actually, it's defined in a way what they've taken out the severity, the death rate, and the spread. So a common influenza now fits the deal when it comes to pandemic. You can take a common influenza and say it's a pandemic, and you wouldn't be lying. So that is what we basically, if we summarize it, that is what we have going on. We have this one entity telling us that we have an influenza in the world, and they are not lying. We have an influenza. Every year we have this influenza coming and going. Now guys, I know for many of you this is quite basic, but then use this clip to send it to your friends and colleagues who needs to hear this. To the right, you have an image. This is from a military document describing psychological operations. You have this man's head. Down to the right, you have the real world. You have the physical reality. And to the left, you have what is called the information arena. So the whole purpose of psychological operations is to create an information arena and draw people's consciousness into that arena. Now, the purpose is also to make people believe that the information arena is the real world, but in reality, it's just a theater. You see it on a screen. You don't know if it's for real. So the whole point, what's going on in the world right now is they are making us not looking at reality. if we look at the reality surrounding us, we will notice that we have an influenza. That is what we can notice. We have sometimes old people die of influenza. You have colleagues catching influenza and staying at home and so on. This is what we can observe with our own eyes and when we talk to people in our reality. But when we turn on the screens, the smartphones, we see people falling down, we see people dying, we see all of these headlines with pandemic and so on. So as a conclusion, we can say we do have a pandemic in this world, but it's not what you think. The pandemic is, as you see on image to the left, this man, he's staring and is at his smartphone, and he believes that he's perceiving reality when he's looking at a screen. And at the same time, he has stopped observing his reality, his surroundings. So that's the real threat. That's the real pandemic we have in this world. So guys, thank you for listening. And as I said in the beginning, perfect love casts out all fear. Now have a listen to this Dr. Wolfgang. And he's a professional and he's going to be telling you the same thing. What we have happening with this so-called pandemic is simply a common influenza that we have every year. God bless you guys.